Half-Life Alyx's trailer has me a little upset. Not because it's VR exclusive, although my wallet certainly isn't happy about how much I want to play it, and certainly not because it looks bad. No, Alyx has me upset because I didn't quite realise how much I missed Half-Life. Half-Life 2 Episode 2 is my favourite game. It's paced so perfectly, has such an incredible atmosphere and so many fantastic set pieces that I worry no other game will be able to top it. And then I play it again, and I forget my worries, because coming up short next to this is no failure. On gameplay alone, it has one of the most satisfying weapons ever to grace a video game in the Magnuson device, on top of the already excellent arsenal the rest of the Half-Life 2 games feature. It also has what I think is hands down the most enjoyable enemy to fight in the Hunters, an enemy that takes elements of the Hound Eye and Bull Squid enemies from the first game and pair them with tactics that make the most of Half-Life 2's best weapons. The environments are as varied as those of Half-Life 2, but feel more cohesive, and where the series has always had some issues delivering on emotional moments, without spoiling anything, Episode 2 lands with a triumphant 1-2 punch of the best gameplay set piece in the series, followed by the best narrative one. For my tastes, it's as close to perfect as anything I've played. Love doesn't begin to describe it. This game just consumes me entirely every time I play it. Half-Life is also my favourite franchise. Packed with memorable moments, the entirety of each game is etched into my memory. In high school, I was mostly well behaved and quiet, but I was also that kid that drew in their textbook, and many of the drawings had a theme. I wouldn't draw these drawings again today, but the series remains lodged in my head almost as much as it was then. Throughout the whole series, with only a few minor missteps, a delicate balance between empowering gameplay and a disempowering narrative is established. This balance is what I first think of when I think of the series. The G-Man is the most memorable symbol of the series, for a good reason, and in-game he's constantly reminding you that Gordon Freeman's only a pawn in a war being waged for reasons he doesn't understand between entities he never meets. There's something really exciting about the oppressive structures of City 17 or Black Mesa when paired with traditional FPS game mechanics. There's a rhythm to the series. Beats of narrative set up beats of gameplay.
The military cleanup is just a paranoid rumor, isn't it?
And together, they make Half-Life what it is. Together, those beats represent everything other titles have lacked for me. Recently, I've been playing Dishonored 2. It's fine, I like it well enough, though I do question the judgment of whoever decided that the screen for reading text should sway in what I can only assume was a deliberate attempt to make people feel ill, and the final boss battle, as it were, is terribly unintuitive if you're planning on a pacifist route. Overall though, it's a really solid game, and one that seems to attempt to imitate the way Half-Life's narrative beats set up the gameplay ones. But it, like so many other games, just falls short. Dishonored as a series has more than just the typical imitations of certain elements of Half-Life's legacy. It also shares some of its DNA. Arcane Studios were at one point developing a since-cancelled game with Valve that would see players make a return to Ravenholm, and from the scraps of that project, it's not too hard to see the influence it might have had on Dishonored. But, sharing DNA or no, it still falls short. Even with excellent levels and brilliant mechanics, it still lacks that special something unique to Half-Life. Whether that's just for me personally or not is up for debate, of course, but where Dishonored 2 sometimes feels like a game with a narrative that acts as an excuse for the next segment of gameplay, the Half-Life series, with the possible exception of Half-Life 2, has a wonderful rhythm that weaves the narrative to the gameplay in ways other titles just don't. This rhythm is both present and evident in Half-Life 2, of course. The narrative beats of the introduction to City 17 lead wonderfully to the apartment block raid, for example. But Half-Life established this rhythm long before Gordon reached City 17, and I feel the first game, and the episodes afterwards, did it better. I can't say how exciting it is to see some of the team working on Alyx say that they were going back to that first game for inspiration on a Reddit AMA. There's hardly a better title to return to for influence. To look at the specific cadence that I associate with Half-Life, we have to begin, of course, with the iconic introduction to Black Mesa. It begins on a monorail, following a slow descent into the facility, and ends as you enter the test chamber and everything goes wrong. There's the setup, a slow build of tension as you descend into the bowels of Black Mesa that continues as you travel back the way you came after everything went wrong. That's a dead end, so you have to find another way out. It's, of course, far from the last time something is introduced via narrative beats and then explored in gameplay ones, but it was right from this beginning that I knew I loved this game. It was right from the first moments that Half-Life established its unique melding of gameplay and narrative elements. And returning to that first title today, it still strikes me how well it holds up. People say it ushered in the first wave of modern narrative-driven FPS titles, but part of why it still feels so fresh is in my eyes partially because almost no other game has done it as well since. Even Half-Life 2 didn't quite capture that special something that the first did for me. What's special about Half-Life today is still special in the first entry to the series. Even over 2 decades later, it still holds up. Returning to Half-Life is always a joy. From the first game in the series to the last, it has a special something that no other series has given me. And this, of course, is where we come to Half-Life Alyx. I found the trailer oddly upsetting. This looks to be an incredible game. I'm freaking out about how beautiful the graphics are, how exciting the gameplay looks, and the little details of what looks to be a new enemy here, these dust motes that evoke the atmosphere of Zen there, and the intricacies of reloading a weapon all have me feeling a little giddy. Broader tonal elements like the meeting of horror and comedy, or dark themes explored through lovable characters, also immediately excite me, and that little tease of the updated G-Man model, wow, I'm feeling chills. The trailer is really well put together too, and the gameplay it shows off is just bursting with possibilities. There is nothing bad to say about the trailer, bar some curious choices in a new voice actor replacing an old favourite, and a recasting they had to do that didn't quite sound right to me after the original voice actor died, but those minor quibbles have nothing to do with why I'm a little upset. I'm upset because I had no idea how much I missed Half-Life until this trailer came along. Little dribs and drabs from Portal 2 and minor leaks have been the only elements of Half-Life the public have seen in over a decade, and the love for the franchise only seemed to grow in its absence. Half-Life 3 became a hope, then a dream, and then a meme. Obviously, that all weighed on Valve's collective mindset, as internally they scrapped multiple iterations of Half-Life related titles, and built a weight to the series they feared they couldn't recreate again. Those that made reference to the long-desired sequel, meanwhile, were labelled as cruel. I understand, and to some extent have sympathy with, their discomfort. Valve has built beloved IPs, but none carry the same weight as Half-Life. It's not Valve that has me a little upset, but rather the games industry at large, where so many games have tried to follow in the steps of Half-Life and come up short, where beloved games are milked by greedy companies until the sequel buckles under the pressure, where multiplayer and ongoing payment models have pulled focus away from telling tight, self-contained stories. There's always a trap in thinking the past was better than the present. A trap that's particularly easy to fall into should you watch too many episodes of the Gymquisition, but I don't think that's actually the case. Indie titles like Hollow Knight are honestly better than most AAA games of the past, and cheaper too. The range of titles and possible experiences in the medium is enormous, and developers have a bigger potential audience than ever before. But it feels like something special from the past was largely lost. That something is what I think people are really responding to in promotional materials for titles like Cyberpunk 2077. A return to an ambitious, single-player focused title is what actually has me excited for 2077, while the actual gameplay shown thus far hasn't really grabbed me. Then there's Half-Life Alyx. Of course, that something Alyx evokes does come with a caveat. This is supposed to be the killer app to sell people on VR, a platform in which Valve is now heavily invested. But while I may not be sold on VR as a whole, I can certainly say I'm sold on this specific game. Where some people might be lusting after the new environmental interactions or the graphics, I'm excited about something else. Both look excellent, but where the new is what Valve seems to want to show off, it's the old that thrills me. That old feeling I had playing the earlier Half-Life titles is, much to Valve's credit, infused into the trailer for Alyx. That special something, that thing I've missed so much more than I realized, that something, whatever it is oozing from this trailer. This is a return to Half-Life, and whether I'll be able to play it or not, I couldn't be more excited. And, as always, cheers. Have a good one.